I'm still quite a way off from having children myself. However, there's no such thing as being over-prepared when it comes to family planning. Because of this, I'm joined with Simmy from PensionBee to discuss everything you need to know before having children, as well as how you can go about saving for their future. Hello, Simmy. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for joining me on the podcast today. Guys, please be kind because it's Simmy's first time on the All Things Money podcast. But I think it's going to be a really, really good conversation because I feel like for a lot of people, they all have the goal of having children, whether that's tomorrow, in the future. For me, it's in the distant future, but hopefully the future nonetheless. But before we delve into all of that, please introduce yourself to everyone listening.
So I'm Simmy, and I am the Senior Social Media Manager at PensionBee.
Amazing. And how did you get to that position?
I have been in it for a long time, giving away my age. I have been working in social media for about 15 years now.
Wow.
So back when social media wasn't a priority to a lot of companies, I was just doing some Facebook and things like that. I'm working on sort of more individual pages for brands, but through progression, I've worked in a lot of agencies and things, but then I went in-house with PensionBee, and it's been good for almost 4 years now.
Wow, and PensionBee's changed a lot since those 4 years, because I remember it was one of the very first accounts when I started All Things Money, and the growth has been amazing. You now produce content, which is fun, and now you're on a podcast with me.
Fun, it's growth.
It is, and that's what we like to see.
Yeah.
And obviously, I want everyone on the podcast to know Simmy a little bit more before we delve into all things family planning.
Yes.
And so I've got 2 quick fire questions for you today. So my first one is, what's the most unexpected thing you've ever splurged your money on?
So I bought an ice bath for my husband. I bought an ice bath for my husband for his birthday one year, but I thought I did a really good job because he basically kept going on and on about how cold showers are really good for you and cold plunging is really good, and you go to the gym and you do that ice bucket thing, and I was like, you know what, like, let me bring it home. That was 2 years ago and we haven't opened the box yet.
Simmy!
But he said to me, I'll do it once you do it. And I was like, but it's your present. And I was like, and you're the one who talks about it all the time. But I do have an aim this summer to get it out and start doing it for wellness. It's meant to be good. But let's see.
It is so good for wellness. I can't believe it's still in the box.
I know, it's really bad.
We need one right now.
It's so hot.
It is warm,
it's
isn't it, today?
But that's what my unexpected splurge was.
Do you care to share how much you spent on that?
I don't even remember how much it was now. It was like close to £200, something like that. But I genuinely thought it was a really good present because I'm not the best present giver.
Yeah.
Because I feel like whatever he wants, he gets for himself.
Yeah.
And he's always changing the music he likes and everything. So I was like, this is nice. He talks about it all the time. But yeah, it just wasn't.
To be fair, I mean, from what you've just said, I feel like that would have been the perfect gift.
So.
Well, Simmy's husband, if you're listening, open that box up.
Yes.
And my second question for you is, what's been your greatest financial achievement?
Probably buying my house. So with my husband, so we bought a house almost 5 years ago, which I was really proud of. And on top of that, I think it sounds really silly, but it's being able to, like, my daughter, so I've got 2 kids, one 3-year-old and one 6-year-old, and my older daughter, who's doing more clubs and things now, she always wants to try new things out, and being able to say yes to her without worrying too much about it. And I think that for me is really nice because you know, she's into science, and now she's like, I wanted to do this science club that's just started at school, and it's something I don't have to think about.
Yeah.
And I can be like, yes, okay, you can do it. So that to me is really amazing that I'm able to be in that position to do that.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's feelings like that actually often go underrated because for me, during secondary school and sixth form, I used to be really financially anxious. And I think I've only now in the last few years gotten myself to a point where I'm like, if I want to go on holiday, I don't really have to think twice about it. Or if I want to treat my mum to something, again, don't have to think about it because, again, finances is such a sticky topic, isn't it? So when you get to a point where you actually feel a bit like, relaxed, and you maybe don't feel guilty about spending money, it's such a nice feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, and I do genuinely feel like you feel less guilty spending it on your kids than you do. Like, for me, I'll happily spend on my kids, whereas I'll be a little bit more reluctant for me, bar that ice bath.
I still can't believe that ice bath. I'm going to come over now to come use it.
Come. Someone needs to.
I will, happily.
Yes.
And obviously you mentioned kids, which I love the fact that you've got 2 daughters. And obviously today we're chatting all things family planning, how people can save their children, and just everything they need to know before they have kids. So I guess one of my questions for you first is, what are some things people need to plan before actually becoming parents?
So one of the things would be to start thinking about your budget, because having a family is going to cost a fair bit, and just making sure that you're aware of your parental leave entitlement, how long you want to take off of work, and just making sure you have your finances kind of in order, because it will cost, and there's a big cost at the beginning because you're wanting to buy all this stuff for your child, and what if it's twins, what if it's triplets, and you've got, and
that's happened to a few of my friends as well.
that's happened before, where I know of someone who's like, we'll go for the third, and then it's like twins, and you're like, we've got 4 kids now. So that's fun. But there's like big bulks of costs that happen before you have a child, and just making sure you have your finances in order, because that's a stress that you don't want to be having. You want to focus on the fun bits of becoming a parent. But on top of all of that, I would say being emotionally ready to have a child is really important. It is a big ask of you. You do sacrifice a lot, especially in those first few years, especially in that first year. Which is, it's a whole, especially with your first, it's a big shock to the system how different your life is. But you have to speak with your partner and make sure they're ready, and also what you expect from each other. Like, who's doing the night feeds, who's doing this. Some things will just come up once the baby's here, but I do think it's important to have those conversations beforehand. I was really fortunate that when I got married, I think, I lived with my in-laws for the first 5 years of my marriage, and within the first few months, my sister-in-law actually had her baby, and so my niece was born. And within our culture, the daughter comes back home for a couple of weeks. So my sister-in-law came back to her childhood home for a few weeks. And I saw firsthand what newborn life was like.
Was it a shock?
It was a shock. Like, my sister-in-law is built for motherhood, right? She was amazing. She had so much patience. But I literally saw like the night feeds, the wake ups, the crying constantly. Like, not that it was like that all the time. There were really amazing bits, but it was a shock to my system as to how much you need to do, and that you really do have to be emotionally ready to have a child. So that's just as important as all the finance bits, because you're going to give a lot to your kids if and when you have them.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, especially the emotional, I guess, readjustment that you'll have to go through. And I think that's why having a budget is so important, because the last thing you want to do is, when you are doing the night feeds, or when you maybe think about when you want to go back to work, you don't want to be stressing about your finances, right?
No. And also the night feeds, one thing I'll say is you do doom scrolling during your night feeds. And so you end up accidentally ordering a couple of things from Amazon. So you don't want to be panicked about the fact that you've just bought something either. But you do have to be, you have to be ready in both mindsets.
Yeah, and when we say budget, what does that look like, I guess? Is that in terms of like a emergency fund, or, what do you think people should actually have financially ready before the child comes?
I think, you need to make sure that you've got an emergency fund set to one side. That's kind of all finances. So you need to make sure you've got roughly like 3 to 6 months worth of what you need set to one side, because anything could come up. Something could happen with the house, or something could happen with your car. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's so many little things. Also, just looking at stuff like childcare costs. Those are big. So have you got budget set aside for what childcare looks like after you come back from parental leave? Because there are the best way to go about doing something like that is, if you know you're going to put your child in nursery or whatever else it is, I would personally start looking when you're already pregnant, because you want to be able to look without any pressure.
Yes.
And, get on any wait lists if you need to be on any. And also you can see if their fees align with your budget, because you may love a nursery, but at the end of the day, there's other things that come into play. And some things may seem important at the beginning, so you're trying to put all your money into this one nursery, but you realise over time that it's not, that there's other things that are just as important, that you'd rather spend your money on this for your child instead.
Yeah, it's so interesting, costs being the biggest one.
Yes.
And I feel like we're in a society now where we are growing an aging population, and a lot of young adults are actually delaying, if not even not having children at all.
Yeah.
So when we think about becoming parents, what is the average cost of raising a child in the UK roughly?
So, according to a charity called Turn to Us, it's around £200,000 to raise a child to the age of 18.
Wow.
And I think £230,000 to the age of 21. But like, that's 18 and 21. I don't think many people cut off from that
Facts.
age. You know, it keeps going. So, but that's sort of the average cost, and that's also different if you're not raising in a couple, for instance. So those costs can vary.
Yeah, so it is a lot of money. And I guess obviously that's over the lifespan of up to 18 to 21. But obviously the cost of even having the baby is a lot, right? So obviously, like you mentioned, there's nursery fees.
Yeah.
And I actually have spoken to quite a few parents. I offer one-to-one. So had a few people where we've like maybe sat down with budgets and we've reassessed what they can cut out and things. And nursery fees is probably one of the biggest costs that... I don't know. It's really hard because I know people want to go back to work, right? So for some, nursery fees is all they can pay.
Yeah.
But I think people also have to remember and bear in mind that nursery costs can actually increase as well.
Good thing is that we've got free childcare hours, and like that's adjusted now.
Yeah.
So I think currently 9 months to 2 years is 15 hours free.
Okay.
Whereas 3 to 4 years is 30 hours of free childcare. But that's changing from September. So from 9 months to 4 years, it will be 30 hours of free childcare.
Oh wow! So it's light for some parents then.
It's huge, but I think those things are really helpful, and it's great that the government's doing it, because at the end of the day, they want people to go back to work, but they weren't making it easy for anyone to go back to work. So this is helpful. But childcare is still a huge cost.
Yeah, it's big. It is big. And I guess, obviously, nursery costs, guys, I promise I'm not trying to put you off having children, but nursery costs is obviously one cost. But are there any other costs that parents often forget about when it comes to saving for their future children?
So there's uniforms that you have to pay for. On top of that, we've got school trips as well. So there might be a small cost for that too. And then you've also got fundraising that schools do. So a lot of schools do a lot of fundraising, so you end up spending a little bit here and there.
Yes.
And that's kind of costs that you don't account for either, and you don't note them down because it's just, a pound here, a pound there. Do you know what I mean? So but the fundraising costs I understand to an extent, because at the end of the day, schools aren't funded very well. So the school itself has to find ways of raising money, and it's all going to go back to your kids anyway.
Yes.
So it's all beneficial.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a huge cost. And then on top of that, clubs. So like I mentioned, my daughter is currently in like a football club.
Yeah.
But before that, she was in a gymnastics club, and then she was in what else has she done? Tennis club. But one thing I've realised is I've taken it. Well, me and my husband have taken it a term at a time.
Yeah.
So we let her try something new every term and see if she enjoys it. And if she does enjoy it, then we'll extend it. But it gives us the opportunity to try different things without all of that cost happening at the same time.
Yes.
But these clubs can cost about £200 a term.
Wow.
So, and they're the after school ones. Whereas, outside of school, there's like essential like life skills you want to teach your children. So my daughter's in does swimming every week, and that's continuous. That's not going to change either. And she's been in that since she was 3 years old.
Wow.
So it's like, it's one of those where it's like, okay, these clubs add up. And that's what she's doing now. And then hopefully she'll find something that she really likes. That's just for my older one, who can be in clubs. But my younger daughter, she'll start swimming soon as well. So that's an additional cost. And it's what they'll enjoy as they get older, and making sure that we're able to fund what they enjoy, and what they want to spend their time on.
Yeah, you listing all the clubs makes me laugh, because God bless my mum and dad, because I did try everything under the sun. Like I did tennis, swimming, gymnastics, horse riding, hockey, a lot.
I love that.
And you know what? They did a very good job, because I know it can't have been cheap, right?
Yeah.
And so I guess, what would you recommend for those maybe wanting to, I guess, put a little pot of money aside? Do you think they should create like a sinking fund for like, the extra £1 or £2 or the future clubs that might come in the future?
Yeah, I definitely think it's important to just, when you're putting that budget sheet together, having those just an extracurricular budget.
Yeah.
To just be like, okay, my child may want to try this, my child may want to try that. So just something to one side, keeping in mind like the average cost of a club is, I would say, between 150 to like £200 a term. So what does that look like in your budget sheet?
Yeah.
But then there's other costs that have reduced by that time, because once your child is in school, you're not paying childcare anymore.
So true.
So, yeah.
And I guess if we're looking at how much nursery fees cost per term compared to the school clubs, you might say your bank account should look a little bit healthier. But
if you don't have another kid still in childcare. So it depends.
Very much so. And I think, like you mentioned, having that pot is really important for like extracurricular. But I think, like I always say, I think a lot of people often associate savings with having to be thousands of pounds, when actually it can just be a pot where you put £10 there or £15 if you have like an extra £5 lying around, put it in as well, right?
Yeah. And just simple things like pocket money. You know what you like when your child's like, oh, I've done this, or if you are doing pocket money, we do stars, we don't do pocket money. But if you do it, then that in itself is still a pot that your child is putting together. And if they want to say, oh, I want to do this, then you can say, yeah, you can do that with your pocket money. So, you know, there's other ways of going around it. And saving a little bit is better than having to think, oh, I've got to save a chunk.
Yes, and definitely not the whole £200,000 up front, right?
No.
So I guess obviously there's probably lots of people listening to the podcast that probably want to start a family soon. So do you have any financial top tips for those looking to become parents soon?
So budget sheet is like the quick and easy one. Literally make a list of everything that you think you might need for your first child. And so what me and my husband did was we made a full list of everything that we thought we needed, and we kind of put a pros and cons next to it. Do we really need it? Do we have space for it? And things like that. And then also, like, he's like a spreadsheet wizard, so he had all this like this is how much it is on Amazon, this is how much it is here, and just making sure that we had all the costs, and also being able to justify that cost when we came to spending. But one thing we didn't do, which I would encourage new parents to do, is when they're putting that list together, is show it to someone who already who's had a child recently.
Okay.
To be like, do you really need that? Or is that something that you saw on the gram and you think you need it? And is it worth the money?
Yeah.
So, for instance, when I was having my first, I wanted this really fancy high chair that like swiveled and laid flat. And I was like, it would just help me so much. But really, I just needed a place for my child to sit and eat. And that cost went from like £80-90 to £13. So it's worth looking over and seeing if you really need what you've put down, or if you're like buying into almost like a fad. So I would just keep an eye on what you're spending and show it to someone who's had experience, and if you really need it. Yeah,
I think those are good tips. I think if you are planning your first child, I think it's very easy, I can imagine, to get very excited. And you literally just start looking at all these mum accounts and all these family TikToks, and you're like, oh, I need that. And you're like, probably like, actually, no, let me rein it back.
Yeah, you really do need to, and I think with social media, you can get really carried away with thinking, oh, that's aesthetically pleasing and this and that. But I think you really have to, I've really very much bought into the whole wooden toys and this and that. But really, my kid just wants bright colours. So I was like, I ended up buying all the plastic stuff anyway. But that's what she enjoyed. So now I think, oh, I didn't need all that other stuff. But that happens with experience at the end of the day. You don't know. And I don't want to put anyone off. Like, if you want to buy it. But just give yourself time to think about what it is that you want to buy.
Yeah. I think that's where the 30-day rule can come in really handy, in terms of like, I don't know where you would shop for these things now, because I'm obviously not a parent to be, but let's say Mothercare when it used to exist, maybe put everything in your basket, leave it for 30 days and be like, reassess and be like, okay, did I actually need that, or did I just feel really like frivolous at the time, you know?
Yeah. Also, there's even like, obviously you get all these baby shows now as well, and it's such a good place to go and just look around. You don't have to buy anything, but you can test everything out and see if you actually want it. Like, my husband was adamant on like a 4x4 stroller, and to be fair, it worked out for us because on bumpy ground your kid ain't flying around. But realistically, like we only needed it for a couple of years, and then you end up going to like more of a compact one that just does the job for you. And they're a lot less expensive. But yeah, there's just things you can test out and see if you really want them, if they suit you, if they suit your lifestyle. So things like that. So I would say like baby shows and stuff like that. Talk to someone who already has kids. Those are the things that will help you understand what you might need.
Yeah, that's really helpful actually. Baby shows. Gosh, there's so much for me to come.
There's so much.
And I guess I'm keen to know, having children yourself, Simmy, second-hand goods, yay or nay when it comes to cost savings?
I don't mind them. I don't think there's anything wrong with secondhand. I've bought like stuff from Marketplace and things like that for my kids. It's all about, I just disinfect when I buy. But I don't see the problem. I think it depends on what it is at the end of the day and the quality of what you're buying. I've bought things like scooters for my kids before because, they can cost hundreds or I can get it for 30 quid. And I bought a jumperoo for my daughter.
Oh, cute.
And when she was very little, like my second, and rather than paying like £70 for it, I paid a tenner for it, and then I sold it for a tenner.
Wow.
So I kind of rented it for £10. So it's so much. Sometimes having a look around and understanding where you can, because you end up borrowing from family and stuff as well.
True.
If you're like the second to have kids in your family, then the first can kind of pass things down to you, which I had the benefit of.
Yeah.
So there were some things that just got passed around the family and everyone just had a go.
Hacks like that come really handy because I think, again, when it comes to like social media and wanting the aesthetic, sometimes you do just need something that does the job, and Marketplace, eBay, Vinted, all of those places do such a good job. And like, I don't know about you, but I know when one of my very first friends had her first child, she was like, I was inundated with like 0 to 3 months clothes that were like half of them we didn't get to use. So obviously then she was able to pass that on. Again, even though it might be second hand, some of it actually might be completely unused, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's definitely worth it. There's nothing wrong with secondhand, and if you know the quality is good, then it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, I love that. I'll probably be me in the future, I'm not gonna lie. And I guess obviously, like we mentioned, there's obviously a lot of costs associated to having children, and some people actually might find themselves having children that maybe weren't planned. So I guess, when it comes to raising children, is there any government support that can support families that may be unable to financially raise them up themselves?
So yeah, there's child benefit. That's a tax-free payment for those for children under the age of 16. So it's paid every 4 weeks, and it's claimed by one person per child.
Okay, perfect.
And then there's an earnings cap on this though, so I think it's around £60,000.
Okay.
But if you earn over that amount, you can still claim it, but then not take the payment. Okay. And that will help with your national insurance credits.
Oh,
as
amazing.
Well. You need to make sure that you keep getting those credits, because then that will help towards your state pension as well. So that gap that you're having during your parental leave, you're still making up that national insurance credits to make sure you're getting a state pension at the end.
I'm so glad you shared that, because I think when it comes to raising children, it can sometimes be really expensive. Some parents find themselves in financial difficulty, and so I'm glad we're having this conversation today so people know where to turn to if they do need extra help. I think there's also additional benefits. So if you aren't working a full-time job, there's also universal credit, which also shouldn't go unnoticed. So yeah, there's lots of different types of benefits available on the government websites in there.
Yeah, definitely. And then there's also things like free school meals for kids as well. So I think in all of Key Stage 1, you are entitled to free school meals, but then if you're on universal credit, any child is eligible for free school meals, I think from like this September onwards or something, like from what I remember. So yeah, there's things like that. So at least you're not having to worry about that meal as well for lunch when you're at school. And then there's like breakfast clubs and things like that as well that all come into it. So there's those little things that are really helpful.
Yeah, I can imagine. Thank you. So when it comes to raising children, obviously there are costs associated before they're born, during, and then also I'm assuming loads of parents listening to the podcast, but we want to start saving for their children as well, especially if they already have children right now. What are the best ways parents can start saving for their children's future?
So you can get a cash junior ISA, which is really great, or a stocks and shares junior ISA as well. So that's a good place to start. I think the cap is around £9,000 a year.
Yeah.
And then your child is then able to access that from, I think 16 they can take control, and then 18 they can have it.
Yeah.
But then that's something obviously you need to think about in terms of your child as well. Do you want them to have access to that big pot of money from the age of 18? But it's just it's a way of saving to one side where you can have that standing order going out every month, knowing that that's being put to one side for your children.
Yeah, I agree, because I remember what I was like at 17, 18, I had driving lessons, I was starting to save for university. So having a pot of money like that can be really useful. And again, like I mentioned earlier, having a standing order, even if it's £10 a month going into the junior ISA, can honestly go a long way over the course of like 18 years, right?
Yeah, definitely. And you've got to look at that growth as well that's going to happen on the side, and then you might be putting something else to the side just in your own pot as well, that you're like, actually this is something that they can't touch, that you might know better than your child when they turn 18. So it might be something that you're putting to one side, just thinking, this is for me to say, I have this, is there something you want to try? This pot is on the side for you.
Yeah. And I guess for some people listening to the podcast, they might be thinking, that's another savings pot. Why do you think it's so important that parents actually do consider saving for their children's future?
So like you mentioned, university, your child, the university costs are getting higher and higher, and your child may not want to go, but what if they do? Are you helping towards that cost? And if you are, then you need to be thinking about that from the very beginning. Maybe your child wants to get married one day. Are you helping towards that cost?
Yeah.
So there's certain things that you want to make sure that your child is prepared enough for, where they're not completely just kind of left in deep water thinking, oh God, I've got to do all of this by myself.
Yes.
So things like university costs, if there's a hobby that they really love, if you took horse riding all the way.
I know, I wish I did.
Those stables, that horse, everything. There's certain things that you want to prepare your child for.
Yeah.
And I think with even like the retirement age rising, they're going to need income for a while.
Yes. Definitely. Support is going to be needed, guys. I'm not going to lie. And I don't think I was even an expensive child. I mean, minus the clubs in school, but like post 17, I started working my part-time job, but there were still things my mum wanted to and still wants to contribute towards my life. So I guess being a parent, the costs never end, do they?
No, never. And I think this is like coming from a cultural side. I know within my family that's I'm like in my 30s now, and my mum and dad will still be like, do you need this?
Yeah,
I can do that for you. They just never stops.
Yeah.
So,
and they want to because they're your parents, right?
Of course. And they're like, there's enjoyment out of helping as well. You are like, I want to do that for my child. So if there is a way that you can put some money to one side to do that, then that's great. But I would say always do it within your means. At the end of the day, yes, your child's future is important, but you're living your life.
Yes,
as
so
well.
True.
And you have dreams and aspirations. I have them in my 30s. I still have things I want to do. So I'm making sure that, yes, I'm saving for my child, but also that whole fill your own cup as well, because that's just as important. Like, in order for your children to be happy, you need to also be happy.
Yeah.
So making sure that you're looking after you and doing what you enjoy and doing those extra, you might want to start reformer Pilates or whatever else is going on, but
or get an ice bath.
Oh, exactly. Splurge on an ice bath. But at least you know that you can do them, and you're doing it for yourself and you're doing it for your kids.
Yeah. What a beautiful way to finish the podcast. I did have one more question, and I guess you kind of ended it there beautifully. But if you had to give one more final tip for any aspiring parents out there, what would you share?
I would say think about your pension. I think it gets really overlooked. You're going to be on parental leave for however long that is, up to a year. During that time, I think for the first 26 weeks, you and your workplace are contributing to your pension.
Yes.
After that, what's the plan? So it's really important to talk to your partner about, could they help with topping up your pension? Is that something that's able to be done? Because you don't want a gap.
Yes.
And that's where that gaps really starts, and especially for women, that's where that gap starts to form when you're taking time off for caring responsibilities. So look at your pension.
Yeah, gosh, there's so much to consider, isn't there? Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today, Simmy. I have honestly learned a lot, and I hope you guys have too. And yeah, I think it gave me a lot of food for thought when it comes to future family planning. But before I let you go, if anyone would like to check out PensionBee, try out the app, or check out the platform online, where can they go to do so?
So you can go to pensionbee.com for our website, or you can download the app on your phone. But we also have so much content on our social media pages and our YouTube channel that's just full of educational content to make you more pension confident.
Oh, I love that. Guys, do check it out because they have so many resources. So yeah, it's been a pleasure, Simmy.
Thank you so much.